Hi everyone, I'm Jim Dempsey, and I've served in development for the past 36 years, most of those with Crew. Over that time, I've helped to plan 2,500 development events and have seen over 100 million raised. I've learned a lot of lessons in those years, both good and bad. One of the most influential lessons that I've learned is what I like to call the abundance mentality. This principle, if used correctly, will bring you closer to being fully funded to do the ministry God has called you to do. We all know that our ministry can't succeed without funding, but the idea of actually developing a base of support is frightening for many. If you are called to lead a nonprofit, raising money and building relationships is an integral part of that calling. However, too many leaders see raising money as a necessary evil. This is because they don't understand the abundance mentality. Veteran development consultant John Frank has defined development as the creating of opportunities to involve God's people in God's ministry. 8 principles of development exist and make up the framework of the abundance mentality. The first principle is stewardship. Psalm 24:1 states that the earth is the Lord's and everything in it, the world and all who live in it. Resources may be in the possession of an individual, but they're ultimately the Lord's. The second principle is the principle of fundraising. Fundraising is different from fundraising. Fundraising puts the emphasis on building genuine relationships with our partners and not focusing on their pocketbooks. This means putting relationships over money and truly understanding the desires of the heart of the partner. The third principle is giving. Acts 20:35 says it's more blessed to give than to receive. Isn't it always exciting to watch someone you love open a gift you've given them? That same feeling exists for our partners when they give to our ministry. In Philippians, Paul says that the benefit in giving always goes to the giver. God promises that if we give, He will give back many times over. The fourth principle is asking. Consider 3 things God's asked us to do in Scripture: pray, share our faith, and ask for money. All 3 are spiritual activities. We never question prayer and sharing our faith, but very rarely do we hear that asking is a critical role of the leader. The more leadership responsibilities we assume, the greater the ministry of asking must be. For example, Nehemiah went before a hostile king to ask for money to rebuild the walls around Jerusalem. Bill Bright, the founder of Crew, and Paul Eshelman, the first director of the Jesus film, both claimed to have spent 80% of their time in development. Asking for money is a great way to see if it's God's plan. God always funds His projects. To pass that responsibility off to someone else is denying all that God intends to show you. There are 3 traps to avoid in the principle of asking. The first trap is that financial partners only want to give to me. The second trap is that financial partners who hear of other opportunities will take away money from one project or an individual and give to another. The third trap is that financial partners are already giving all that they can give. This is scarcity mentality. In reality, when presented with exciting opportunities, partners tend to find more money elsewhere that they can give to use. That's the heart of the abundance mentality. The fifth principle is winning. Every organization needs new prospects and ultimately new partners. The sixth principle is keeping. Winning people to our cause only begins the process. Keeping people deepens and solidifies the relationship. This means increased involvement through giving and activities related to the mission. The seventh principle is lifting. Winning people and keeping them are good, but people who stay in the same place never grow, like someone firmly planted in cement. Every 12 to 18 months, a partner should be challenged to a new level of involvement. Last, the principle of the critical few. Larry Johnston, president of McConkey Johnston consulting firm, taught me early in my career that it's important to focus on who is really important to our organization. Since 20% of the organization's activities produce 80% of the results, it's important that we focus in on the critical few. We should focus on the 20% of the people who bring in 80% of the income for our organization. We invest relationally in those individuals who will give a majority of our budget. This does not mean that people are of greater value in God's eyes than others, but since our time is limited, we must focus in on those who will have the greatest impact. These 8 principles all work together to build an abundance mentality within a leader. But embracing the abundance mentality, by doing that, you learn and boldly affect development and the growth of people and the dedication of those helping you do all that God has called you to do. There's no need to fear that you might ask too much or that people's resources will run dry. God's resources are abundant. Don't worry about those things. That's the abundance mentality.